On today's Rec Room, I'm here at the Southwest Art Center where hundreds of performances have taken place right here on this stage. But what all goes into a production? Today we will give you a glimpse when I sit down with the cast and crew from the production Proof. So stay with us as I take you behind the scenes. Hi everyone, I'm Priscilla Ortega. I'm here at the Southwest Art Center to give you a behind-the-scenes look at the productions that happen here. I'm excited to have a sit-down interview with the actors and actresses from the latest Kenny Leon True Colors production, Proof. Joining me now to talk about Proof are two characters, Fedna Jacquet, who plays Catherine, and Gerard Cadis, who plays Robert. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
So welcome to the Southwest Art Center. I know that this is your first time performing here. How do you feel about that?
We've had the privilege and honor of using the space beforehand, which is usually something that never happens. Usually go and use a space like pretty close to the run. So we've been here for a while and it's a great facility, nice, intimate theater. It's pretty cool.
And how does that intimacy, you know, it's a smaller venue, how does that help or with your performances?
Well, I love it. I think an intimate house, albeit I've had the privilege, the honor of working in an intimate house and a large house. I like the intimate environment. It is truly the audience like being the fly on the wall, you know, watching what's going on inside that family. So I think it really helps the audience, and I think it definitely helps the actors.
Okay, so let's talk about this play in particular. It is, from what I understand, an award-winning play, correct?
Yes. Drama Desk and
Tony,
yes.
Pulitzer, everything.
Great, so the list goes on. Tell us a little bit about the plot.
Sure, so it's a bit of a family drama, and it starts kind of right after the passing of Robert, who's Catherine's father.
Don't give it all away.
You're right, I'm going to try not to. And it really deals with investigating what happens after that, what happens when a family member passes away, how people communicate with each other, when there's mental disease in the family, how one deals with it, and also I think just kind of figuring out what to do in situations like this.
Okay, so it sounds very relatable.
Yeah.
And you're speaking of mental illness, the characters are struggling with that, or maybe, you know, one character or two. How does that affect like the performances? Do you have to like practice a little bit more, or how does that affect?
Well, you always do your research. I don't care what role you take on as a professional actor, research is critical. In this particular case, because in my case as Robert, he is definitive. He has a mental illness. He suffers from depression, and it's very obvious. So we did actually have a clinical psychologist come and visit us and talk to us. We've done several YouTube videos of interviews with people who suffer from depression, people who are bipolar, their differences, manic depressive. There are varying degrees, so you have to do your homework in order to give the audience an accurate depiction. Otherwise, you're just playing a part, and that doesn't do the author the justice, and it doesn't do justice to the audience either.
So you're doing a lot of research even before you start actually like rehearsing as a group. So how long does it take to like rehearse and, you know, memorize all your lines? And
probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, yes.
I think it depends on the project, and it also depends on the actor, right? So some people are a little quicker, some people are a little slower. Some people, you know, sometimes, I know for me, I memorize kind of like a big wash of like everything, and then I have to go back in to make sure I'm getting like the particular words correct so that, you know, you're really saying what the author wrote. But, you know, it's individual, and if there was like a strict procedure, we'd be like robots.
so you're probably practicing in the shower as you're driving.
Oh, my wife can't stand it. I mean, just driving down the street, I'm in Robert, you know, in the car, it doesn't matter. We went shopping the other day, we had a birthday party in the family, and I'm doing lines from this play. I turn any moment in everyday life into an opportunity to rehearse a line, period.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved in acting? Did you always know that you wanted to be an actor or actress?
For me, yeah, at a pretty young age. I want to say I was in the 7th grade when I decided to start acting.
And how did your parents react?
Well, I'm from a Haitian household, like first generation. So my parents were very much like doctor, lawyer for a little bit. But luckily for me, my sister is a lawyer, and like, you know, my brother's doing really well, and so is my younger brother. So they opened up to the idea of acting, and now they pretty much love it. They've come to support me in a lot of things, and they understand that acting isn't just about, you know, saying lines on a stage. It's community building. It's pushing, you know, different theories and different actions to like everyone, to the public. It's really just showing people how people are, you know, and that's a honorable, amazing profession.
It's oral history. It's educational, it can be inspirational, and, you know, sometimes just plain entertaining, which is good too, you know, humorous. But the work of theater, I'm not going to get into what got me started. It was too long ago. But I've been doing it for quite a while. I'm just going to leave it right there. And it's something that I just love to my core.
So you've been doing this for quite a while, and you wanted to do this since you were young. Do you still get nervous when you actually go on stage, or is it excitement?
Of course. I mean, you know, nervous actually wouldn't be the word I'd use, right? Like, I think everyone has their different processes, and that's totally fine. But for me, you know, there's always an element of fear in everything you do. And then before you do something as big as like go on stage or go on TV or do something, you know, the fear level kind of like increases for you. But what happens is like you learn throughout your journey as an artist, right, to make sure your curiosity factor outshines the fear factor, right? Because there's so many things to be curious about, like, you know, like, will your character fully develop? Will you have this nice moment conversation with your castmate? Like, what will happen? Will the audience understand what's going on? Will you find little pockets of truth, you know? So you get curious about that stuff, and it kind of outshines the fear every time.
You see why she's the lead?
Well, before we go, do you have any advice for someone that wants to get in your career field?
Oh, just like Fedna, start early. Take some classes, study, and do the work. Get into even a community theater, a church production. Just get involved and do the work, right?
I'd say, you know, there's so many different avenues to becoming an actor, right? Like, don't feel like you have to be or follow anyone else's path. If you want to act, just act, you know, read plays, watch TV, be a student, you know, and then go for it, you know, like, what's the worst that can happen?
I think I'd like to add one caveat if we have time. We are actors, but just whether we're doing it on stage or on film, I think it's also important to note that the industry has a vast amount of opportunities and careers that are really great, from camera people, lighting and sound, wardrobe, design.
Right.
I mean, there's directing. That's
And I'm
right.
glad you mentioned all that, because we will definitely be talking to directors, technical directors, and showing the lighting and costume, everything that goes into it. It's a very big job. So thank you all for being a part of it and spreading arts to our community.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And pleasure to meet you. We're going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I'm going to talk to the two other characters in the show, Catherine's sister and her new love interest. Stay with us. Welcome back to Rec Room. I'm Priscilla Ortega. Today's show is a behind-the-scenes look at one of the productions here at the Southwest Arts Center. I just finished up a conversation with two characters from the play Proof, and now joining me is two other cast members, Tinashe Kajese and Eric Mendenhall. Welcome to Rec Room.
Thank you for
Thank you.
having us.
So is this your first time performing here at the Southwest Arts Center?
No, not for me. I had done Detroit 67 with Shoe Colors 2 years ago. So that was the first time I performed here.
And how about you, Eric?
It is my first time performing here, and so
Are you excited, nervous about performing like on an intimate stage, or how does that like differ from like a huge stage?
Actually, this is a pretty medium-sized stage, I would say, for the theaters that are here in Atlanta. I think what's unique about the Southwest Arts Center is their audience, and it's a great group of very faithful subscribers that come, and they are very engaged and committed and vocal a lot of the time. So it definitely is a much more give and take experience than you find. Yeah, that maybe at some of the other theaters where they're great audience members, but they may be a bit more reserved.
Oh, well, that's exciting. So talk about your characters and preparing for your roles. How does that go?
sure. Yeah, I think that anytime that you take the script, there's different things that every different actor has a different process that they kind of work through. So you kind of find what works best for you. It's been great just to kind of read through the script and kind of determine, what do other actors say, or what do other characters say about your character? What does your character say about himself? And then kind of just work through those different things in the room together as we we do a lot of table work at the beginning of this process, where we're just talking about the relationships that we have and making sure that we're all on the same page.
So it's not just reading lines back and forth to each other. You're actually get more involved in your characters.
Yeah, well, you want to create a fully invested, fully realized person. Even though it's make-believe circumstances, we have to truly believe that these events are happening, because that's what will translate. But I think for a lot of us, we're also playing roles that are pretty easy to jump into. We're playing potential lovers, we're playing sisters, we're playing father-daughter roles. So some of us have that experience. I have a sister. So sometimes you first, you tap into what you recognize as a person before, as an actor. And so it's easier to get into those characters when these relationships are so tangible and it's so brilliantly written that a lot of the work has been done for us in terms of relationship.
And a lot of the scenes are very dramatic. How does that differ from playing like a comedy role or a lighthearted role?
I don't know I think the scenes are very dramatic, but David Albarn writes in a way that it's very realistic, it's very naturalistic. So there's comedy in the family drama of it. And so I have always found if you play honestly, whether you're doing drama or you're doing comedy, it's the same amount of work you're putting in. You just got to tell the truth.
Right. That's a great answer. I mean, I think that, yeah.
So what advice do you have for someone that, is young and they don't know where to start? They know they want to be in acting. What would you tell them?
Become a doctor. I'm kidding.
Just kidding.
I'm just kidding. Go to school. I think that you can there's some great programs out there, and I think that if you want longevity in this business, and I think you could speak to that too, you really want to have the training and the technique that gives you a long career as opposed to just a few opportunities when you're young, because there is some great work and there's some great material for mature actors that's out there.
Yeah, and I think that just to piggyback on that, like that's a huge thing, is that, we are trained in what we do, so kind of knowing your craft is incredibly important, but then also just surrounding yourself with a rich life and with rich relationships, because just, what Tinashe was talking about earlier, that how we tell stories is we're pulling from our own lives and we're pulling from kind of the well of experience that we have. And so making sure that, as rich as you can kind of make your life and the circle of people that you have around you, then that's going to benefit you as well.
So it sounds like you guys are pretty tight-knit. Like, is that kind of the way like the arts community is?
I think that whenever you put people in a room, whether they're strangers or they know each other, if you're asking them to play sisters, if you're asking them to play, you know, any of these relationships that are inherently close, you immediately connect. Hopefully you connect. You know, sometimes there's personality things that you're going to be dealing with. But I think that anybody who is an actor or an artist, there's a sensitivity chip that we have that sometimes we can't turn off. And the strength of it is that we're usually a lot more receptive and open to getting close to people and being vulnerable and exploring our limits in a safe space.
And finally, why should somebody who's never been to a play, why should they come to one, or yours in particular?
It's the most exciting thing you can do. There is nothing else in this world that is the same as going to see a live performance. Because whatever you see that night, nobody else is going to see it, and you're sharing it with this group of people that you huddle into a space, you turn off the lights, and you have to be present in that time span. We can't pause it or fast forward it. And I think it's a shared thing that we have done as humans for hundreds of years when we gathered around the campfire. And it will speak to you on such a profound level if you've never done it, because it is a shared society experience. And especially in a time when there is so much division, I think it's a great opportunity to come out and hear about subject matter that might be something that is close to your family or might be something that is completely distant from you but exposes you to something new.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit into the behind the scenes look at what goes on in the productions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I'm going to talk to the director of this latest production. Welcome back to Rec Room. I'm Priscilla Ortega. I'm here at the Southwest Art Center to give you a behind-the-scenes look at the productions that happen here. Joining me now is Tess Malice Kincaid, who is the director of the play Proof. Welcome to Rec Room.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So for people that don't know, what all exactly does a director do for this kind of production?
Sure. Well, the first step is you get the call and are asked to direct a show, and I was already familiar with Proof, the script, and I had seen a production of it before. I'd never seen the film of it before. So first step is you really dig into the script and you see what speaks to you about it and what it is that you want to convey to the audience. Then you assemble all of your design crew that you want to come in on it. You decide who your lighting designer is going to be and who your set designer is going to be, and costume design and sound design. And then you get to casting, which is great fun, and you get to see all these wonderfully talented performers come in and audition for the roles. We work with a casting director on that. And then we were able to assemble a terrific cast for the show and continue on with meetings with the different designers in how it's going to all come together. You get the initial drawings and designs that you've talked about with your designers, and they bring them around the table, and then it all gets implemented and gets built on the stage. And then I go into the rehearsal process, which is always so exciting. First step is you do a read through with your actors, and then you just start kind of digging through it and talking through it and conceptualizing different things and figuring out your different beats and where stuff is going to go. And then you get it up on its feet and stage it and decide who's going to go where, when. And then you just start adding all of those wonderful nuances and seeing what the actors bring to the table and what you're able to offer and guide them. And then we move into the theater and get it onto the set and add the level of the costumes and the lights, and it all comes together. It's really an exciting process.
That sounds like a very lengthy, strenuous process.
There's a lot of effort that goes into it, but a lot of love goes into it as well.
And how long does that process take from like the phone call to like opening day?
It varies from production to production, but for the most part, I knew a couple of months before we went into rehearsals that I was directing it, and so I went through those kind of steps and talking with designers for a few months beforehand. And then once we went into rehearsal, we rehearsed for 3-4 weeks before we actually put it in front of an audience.
So you mentioned lighting, costume, set design. So when people, see a play and they're like, oh, I really want to be a part of that, there's other elements besides actors.
Absolutely. There's so much creativity that people bring to the table with this. I mean, if you're an actor, of course, you're bringing that level. If you're a director, but also there's the designers that are involved. The costume designers have to kind of see the vision of what is the time period, what is the time of year, how many quick costume changes have we got? How can we manipulate that to make it work? Are we moving back and forth in time? How do we make that clear? And lighting design is beautiful because you got different times of day. Our particular play is set outside on a back porch, and so we've got the different times of day that we're dealing with and the different seasons. We're also moving back and forth in time as well, because you're getting kind of a flashback to different scenes in the background with the father and the daughter. And so, yeah, so different creative needs are present for the whole process.
So you sound very passionate about what you do. How did you start? Did you know very young that you kind of wanted to be in?
Yeah, well, I came from an artistic family. My parents were both musicians, and I have a brother that's an opera singer, and so I knew that I loved I loved the arts. And then I started taking theater classes, and then I went to college and majored in theater, and then continued on, and I moved down here in Atlanta. And that's when I first met Kenny Leon, when he was at the Alliance Theater as the associate artistic director there, and so worked with him then, and then continued on as an actor. That was my initial path, and continues to be. I continue to be an actor as well, but I've been doing more directing lately, and that's exciting too, because coming at it from the perspective of an actor, as you understand what it is the actors are experiencing as they're going through the process. So there's a really wonderful way to speak with the actors that you're sympathetic to and you understand what they're experiencing.
Great. So before we go, what would you like to tell somebody that's never been to a play?
Go and see a play. It's so, my daughter, who's 16 years old, has been raised in this business, and so she goes to theater all the time, and she marvels at the fact that so many of her friends have not been to a live production yet, and it's so fulfilling. It's so exciting to be in the same room with this story that's being told, that will only be told in this way this one time when you're sitting there in the audience, and it's very moving, and it's a wonderful community of people to get to experience it together. So.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Stay with us, and when we come back, I will talk to the technical director of this latest production, Proof. Welcome back to Rec Room. I'm Priscilla Ortega. I'm here at the Southwest Arts Center giving you a behind-the-scenes look at what all it takes to make a production happen. Joining me now is Mike Young, Technical Director of the production Proof. Welcome to Rec Room.
Thank you.
So tell me, what all does it take to be a technical director?
I went to school for this. I got a degree from Allentown College of St. Francis de Sales in theater. We were taught basically the basics of theater history and everything else. Then I had a concentration in the technical theater aspect of it, where we learned how to do the drawings and the construction and basically everything that goes into it, from the what type of hardware do you use to how do you break this up in terms of material sizes and things like that.
So basically, is your job a lot of it about set design, or?
No, not really. My job is I take the designer's visions and we create it full scale. So a designer will collaborate with the directors and they'll come up with their vision for the show or the performance. And then I take their drawings and create basically a full scale model of the set, because everything's built off-site and then brought over to the theater. So we basically take a certain size structure and design it in different pieces so it can travel and go be set up somewhere else.
Great. And you said you went to school for this. So did you know from a young age that this is what you wanted to do?
I knew I enjoyed theater. I didn't know exactly what the jobs were out there in high school. And then I went to a small college with a concentration in theater, and that's where I learned that you could have a job as a technical director.
So what advice do you have for someone that, like yourself, they want to be involved in theater but they don't really know all what's out there?
Just get involved. Literally just get involved and start getting yourself just encompassed in everything that goes on with theater. You'll find out real quickly if it's something that you really want to do or you really don't, because there's a lot of work that goes into it that most people aren't quite ready for. You don't just walk into a show and it's there. There's hours and hours and days and weeks of just pure collaboration, labor, problem solving, multitasking. I mean, it's a lot.
So multitasking seems like probably one of the harder things to do. What is the best part or the funnest part of your job?
The moment the show's over, or built, I should say, over for me and installed, and the audience, that first applause. That's when it's all worth it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about what all a technical director does.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break. Well, that's all the time I have for today. I would like to thank all my guests for giving us another glimpse at what all it takes to have a production here at the Southwest Arts Center. You can catch the latest play, Proof, here at the Southwest Arts Center until November 20th. For more information, go to truecolorstheater.org. And remember, you can connect with us online on Facebook, Twitter, or watch us anytime on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.